Okay, so let us start. So today we will discuss basics of pure and applied biology with special reference to cancer biology, and we will discuss current and future research trends as a part of refresher course in life science for Gujarat University. So we are all biology students. So keeping update on biology and especially interesting area like cancer biology is very important for all of us. So as you all know, biology is a natural science which is always concerned with the study of life and living organisms, which includes the structure. So in biology, to study all this structure, function and taxonomy, there are various branches and which include microbiology, cell biology, anatomy, zoology, molecular biology, which all comes under uh, uh, life sciences. And there are new branches such as bioinformatics, and one of the latest branch I would say is oncology or biology of cancer. As we know, there are many branches of biology or fields of biology which are concerned with living things and their environment, which includes ecology, environment, science, and biogeography. Main group of living is bacteriology, microbiology, zoology. Structure and function include physiology, histology. So applied biology mainly includes biotechnology. As you can see in the picture, we are using biotechnology or biology for all of our daily life. We are using a lot of biotechnology and biology in pharmaceuticals. We are using a lot of biology in form of fermentation for foods, and these are the examples. We have bioproducts. So biotechnology or biology or applied biology, I would say, has become a part of life for all of us. So it is important to study biology of life. And what will you do to study biology of life is you will have four options. You will study whole organisms, or you will study organs, or you will study tissue, or you will study cells. So for study of biology or study of biology of life, you have various options, but the modern biology or applied biology is all concentrated on cells, because life begins with cells, and this is a picture of cell and cell organelles. So we prefer to study cells, or a modern biology prefer to study cells. Why? Because we know that cells are fundamental replicating units of living organisms. Cells are the machines with complex regulation and behavior, which work based on the network of chemical reaction, which in biology we know as pathways. This pathway, they carry information which is needed to reproduce themselves. So reproduction of cells is an important aspect. You can see in the picture the similarity between father and son. Again, father and son, you can see the similarity. Another picture or example of showing similarity. So all these pictures, why do you see the similarity? Because it is due to our genes. So all our physical appearance and our physiology and anatomy is due to our genes. So genetic makeup or genetic Aadhaar card is our identity. As all of us have different Aadhaar card number, the genetic Aadhaar card for every individual on this planet is different, and which is their genetic identity. It is important to study genetics or the genetic Aadhaar card, because as you can see in the picture, this is a blueprint, and blueprint is fine. So the picture or the outcome with the building which has been made based on this blueprint is absolutely all right. Similarly, if the genetic makeup is fine, the offspring or the human life is healthy life. But in case there is a problem or there is a mistake in blueprint, there will be disaster, and similarly there will be problems in individuals also. The individual will not be healthy. So what I mean to say is, all our life all depends on our genetic makeup. So for studying genetic makeup, you will study genetic material of a cell, which is known as cytogenetics, or study of cell genetics, or study of chromosomes. So an important branch of life science or applied biology is cytogenetics, which is a study of function, structure, pathology and behavior of chromosomes. Chromosomes are important, and they have been of interest to scientists since so many years. Chromosomes have attracted many microscopists, not only because their attractive structure, but also because they are hypnotically beautiful objects. So they have created interest, or study of cytogenetics have created interest, and the cell biology or cytogenetics has developed, and it started with in 1842, where chromosomes were first observed in plant cells, and then their behavior in animal was described by another scientist, and the name chromosome was coined in 1888 by a German anatomist. So this is a little history of cytogenetics. But what is a chromosome? It is in the nucleus of each cell. The DNA molecule is packed into thread-like structure, which is called structure. So packing of chromosome or a genetic material is important. It is a unique structure of chromosome which keeps DNA tightly wrapped around spool-like proteins, which is called histone proteins. Is also very important. This Chromosomes are passed from parents to offspring, and DNA contains specific instructions that make each type of living creature unique. So the question which comes to our mind after knowing this importance of cytogenetics or knowing importance of genetic material, the question which comes to our mind is, do all living things have a same number of chromosomes? Answer is no. All living things have different numbers of chromosomes, and you can see in the figure that a dog has 78 chromosomes, pufferfish has 42, cat has 38, and so on. So there are how many number of chromosomes in human? That is the question, and answer is 46 plus sex chromosome. So it is 46XX or 46XY. So normal chromosome complement in female is 46XX, and in male it is 46XY. So this is normal. As I said, chromosomes are characterized based on their bending pattern. This is a bending pattern, right? So addressing chromosome is important, and there are international nomenclature rules, and as per international standards, you have to address a chromosome or a chromosome band. And for example, if you want to address location of this gene, CFTR gene, its chromosomal location will be 7q31.2. First of all, it is located on chromosome number 7. It is located on chromosome on Q arm. So first chromosome number, then Q, whether it is on P arm or Q arm. Then what is the region? So depending on the bending pattern, the bands are divided into various regions. So it is on region 3. So chromosome number, arm, region, and then band number. So band number 1 and sub band is 2. So CFTR chromosomal location will be addressed as 7q31.2. So this is universal pattern or universal rule that for addressing the location of a gene, you have to first describe chromosome number, arm, region, band, and sub. And this cytogenetics or chromosome identification or dividing, and cytogenetics is important in life sciences because it is an easy way to survey genome, right? What is genome? Genome is a complete set of genes in given cell system. And what is cytogenetics? If you develop a karyotype is what? Karyotype is arrangement of chromosome, or a karyotype is a complete chromosome complement of a given sample. So when you study a karyotype, you study all chromosomes, and when you study all chromosomes, you address all the genes located on all different chromosome. So it is an easy way to survey genome. It will give you primary information about any genetic abnormality if it is there. And recent studies, they have sequenced human genome, and sequencing of human genome has provided a great deal of information about each of the chromosomes. Number of genes is an estimate, as it is in part based on gene predictions. Total chromosome length is an estimate as well, based on the estimated size of unsequenced heterochromatic genes. So total more than 32,000 genes are sequenced, and there are a great number of sequence bases. So human genome sequence has again contributed a lot to life sciences. So moving further, in cytogenetics there are two different ways, or two main ways to address cytogenetics or to study chromosomal abnormality. One is conventional cytogenetics, and other is molecular cytogenetics. Molecular cytogenetics includes fluorescence in situ hybridization and other techniques. So this is a brief introduction about cytogenetics, and it is used in prenatal studies for examination of amniocytes, fibroblasts from amniotic. Was about cytogenetics, and the modern biology has moved further, and as we discussed initially, we study cells, and in cells there are various biomolecules whose expression play a key role in basically the information carrying molecules. So basically the information carrying molecules are carbohydrates, lipids, proteins and nucleic acid. In other terms, the modern biology studies carbohydrates, lipids, proteins and nucleic acid. DNA, RNA, enzymes and proteins interact in cellular network. So study of all these DNA, RNA, enzymes and protein becomes important in applied biology because it interacts in a cellular net and it requires genius. Studying biology of an individual or a biology of suspected disease, you will study mutation. And mutation is what? It is any change in the original constituent of DNA. It will affect structure, function and reaction of the product. And what is product of a gene is protein. So any mutation will change structure, function and reaction of a protein. So studying any change in original constituent of DNA, which is mutation, is important. So for study of mutation, what will you do? You will isolate genetic material. What is genetic material? Is DNA and RNA. So purpose of DNA and RNA is to obtain DNA and RNA in relatively purified form, which can be used for further investigation of genetic changes through various techniques. And for DNA and RNA studies, the techniques used are PCR, DNA sequencing, real-time PCR, reverse transcribed PCR and so on. There are many techniques nowadays which use DNA and RNA studies, but it is important to get DNA and RNA in relatively purified form. And source of DNA and RNA from human sample is from body fluids, which is blood, urine, saliva, CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, pleural fluid, etc., as well as tissue of patients. It can be fresh tissue or it can be a frozen tissue. But if you are using frozen tissue, you have to collect tissue, fresh tissue, and you have to freeze it immediately. You cannot keep it at room temperature for a longer time. So point here is for DNA and RNA isolation, you need relatively pure DNA or RNA for PCR and other techniques, and it can be obtained from body fluid and tissue. very important technique which this technique came into existence. It was a Nobel Prize winning research in 1992, and it was polymerase chain reaction. So polymerase chain reaction, or the PCR, is the technique which is used for genetic studies. The polymerase chain reaction is a technique to amplify a piece of DNA very rapidly outside the cell. So you have a very minute quantity of DNA, and you can generate more copies of DNA using that using PCR, or a polymerase chain reaction. So the polymerase chain reaction is a technique to amplify a piece of DNA very rapidly outside the cell. It involves repeated cycles of heating, which is melting of DNA, also known as denaturation, and cooling, which is DNA replication, which is done in two steps: annealing and extension. So DNA denaturation is carried out at 95 degrees centigrade here. And then primer annealing is done at 50 to 60 degree centigrade, and then the next step is DNA polymerization by thermostable Taq. So there is a Taq polymerase which is used for DNA polymerization, and then DNA polymerase polymerizes at 72 degrees centigrade, and there is denaturation. So this is a repeated cycle and which goes on, and this is a PCR is a DNA replication in a test tube. It has major components which includes tablet DNA, primers, DNTP, thermostable DNA polymerase or Taq polymerase, and divalent cations like MgCl2. So these are the components of PCR, and it includes denaturation, annealing, and extension. PCR is a very important technique used in biology these days. What are the applications of PCR? It is so in our studies we have studied the application of PCR in oral precancer and oral cancer biology, where we have studied biology of susceptibility, which help in identifying genotypes of at-risk individuals. So which are the individuals which will be at risk of developing cancer. The PCR studies will help in identifying the mutations in individuals having pre-cancerous lesions and carcinoma, and helping prognostic outcome. PCR, there are modifications in PCR restricted enzyme fragment polymorphism, PCR RFLP, and PCR single strand conformational polymorphism, which is known as PCR SSCP, which are also used for using PCR in oral cancer biology. There is another technique which is known as real time PCR. Real-time PCR monitors the fluorescence emitted during reaction as an indicator of amplicon production at each PCR cycle. So it indicates amplification of production at each cycle. So it is real-time indication. So that is why it is known as real-time PCR. and it is as opposed to PCR. PCR is a endpoint detection, whereas real-time PCR is a real-time detection. So this is the difference between real-time PCR and PCR. So it is a quantitative PCR, which is fluorescence-based detection of amplification of DNA sample. Each reaction is excited after each cycle at the appropriate wavelength to detect fluorescence, and signal intensity is directly proportional to the amount of or using modern science in studying biology. With this example is important because cancer has become a major threat to human being globally, and WHO has reported that the number of new cases is expected to rise by 70% over next 2 decades. So cancer is going to be a bigger problem in coming year, and it is important to concentrate, or it is important to study cancer biology. And this is another example, and as you can see, I can add the 2018 data also. Now we have Globocon report of 2018 also, and it also says the same trend. But if you can see this number in 2008, 2002 incidence as well as mortality of cancer, 2008 and 2012. There is a sharp rise in cancer incidence, and it has become a life-threatening disease. This is a global picture where lung cancer is a major cancer. If you look at Indian scenario, oral cancer is a major cancer in male, and in female it is cervix cancer and breast cancer. I would say C and B. So these are the two main cancers in female, and oral cancer is a major cancer in male, and you know the reason for it. So there is a need of there is more effects required to beat cancer, more efforts. This is efforts, not effects. So there are more efforts required to beat cancer, and it needs more manpower and needs contribution of many health professionals. So approaching cancer research or fighting cancer needs doctors, also needs researchers, and it will be a team approach. And that brings me to the importance of cancer biology. So study of biology in fight against cancer is important, because study of biology is study of molecular signature, which if a molecular signature takes a journey from bench to the personal medicine, it will create wonders, which we discussed in example of imatinib. Imatinib is the identification of molecular signature in form of 922 genetic abnormality, and which has been useful to develop a personalized medicine like imatinib, Philadelphia chromosome, and imatinib as a targeted medicine. So cancer biology is important, and it involves biomarker discovery, biomarker validation, functional genomics, clinical models, and in vivo imaging for study of tumor progression. So there are various steps and various aspects of biology which are studied in cancer biology. Again, it is an important subject in applied biology or in life sciences, because if you look for the answer for a question that why research on cancer biology is critical to progress against the disease, because many advances in the prevention, diagnosis or early diagnosis and treatment of cancer have been possible only because of knowledge that has come from investigation of basic questions about biology of cancer. So, study of biology is important in cancer, and study of biology in cancer will be study of genes or study of protein and mRNA. So, why it is important? To study importance or to understand the importance of biology, we'll have to understand this biological definition of cancer. What is cancer? Cancer is a disease of uncontrolled growth and proliferation, whereby cells escape the body's normal growth control mechanism and have gained the ability to divide indefinitely. It is a multi-step process which requires accumulation of many genetic changes over time. So it is not an overnight process. Cancer doesn't come overnight like malaria fever. It is a accumulation of many genetic changes over time. This genetic alteration involves activation of proto-oncogenes to oncogenes, deregulation of tumor suppressor genes, and DNA repair genes, and immortalization. So, if you look at activation of proto-oncogenes to oncogenes, deregulation of tumor suppressor genes, or DNA repair genes, it is all biology which is important in cancer. Further, what is a tumor? Tumor is a commonly used but non-specific term for cancer or a neoplasm. The word tumor simply refers to a mass. This is a general term for that can refer as a benign, which is generally harmless. So benign tumors are harmless, and malignant tumors, which is cancerous tumors, which are harmful. So there is the term tumor and cancers are sometimes used interchangeably, which can be misleading, but a tumor is not necessarily cancer. But the word tumor simply refers to a mass. For example, collection of fluid would meet the definition of a tumor, but cancer is particularly threatening type of tumor. So this is a benign tumor which has relatively normal cells, and it is a capsule structure, whereas malignant cells which has irregular shape and structure and abnormal regular size and shape, and the cancerous tumors have different morphology. So cancer is a disease of genes. Gene and gene products are involved in cancer. Basically, cancer is activation of proto-oncogenes to oncogenes, as we discussed, which is gain of function. Oncogenes, they gain the function and they activate as oncogenes. The tumor suppressor genes, like p53, they lose their function and they get inactivated. So inactivation of tumor suppressor gene is the reason for cancer, and it is loss of function. Or there is altered activity or modulator genes. So there is gain of function, loss of function, and altered activity of modular genes. So these are oncogenes in normal cells. The normal genes regulate cell growth, whereas in cancer cells the oncogenes accelerate cell growth and division. So cell division and cell growth is faster and uncontrolled due to activation of oncogenes, whereas in tumor suppressor genes, this is a normal cell, and normal genes prevent cancer because they control the growth. When you remove or inactivate the tumor suppressor gene, the damage to both genes leads to cancer, or mutated or inactivated tumor suppressor gene contribute to formation of cancer. So initial mutation inactivates negative cell cycle, then next mutation comes, then third mutation comes, and there is an accumulation of mutation, and they accumulate, additional mutations accumulate rapidly, and it forms cancer. So it is a multiple mutation which is which is contributing to development of cancer. Microscopically, you can differentiate a normal cell and cancer cell. These are the major microscopic differences in appearance of cancer cell. The cancer cells has large and variable shape of nuclei. You can see the comparison. There are mainly dividing cells in cancer which are disorganized and not arranged. So this is a comparison between normal cell and cancer cell. Size and shape are different in malignant cells, and there is a loss of normal features. So cell morphology has been lost in cancer. So these are the major microscopic appearances in cancer cells. Another important characteristics of cancer is metastasis, spread of cancer to distal organs or the other organs in the body. Cancer, if for example, it forms in one organ, for example, breast cancer, which will metastasize to other organs. It will go to brain, or it will go to lung, etc. So metastasis or cancer metastasis is another property of cancer cell, which is caused in several steps. The primary tumor forms vascularization, and then it is detached, and then it is intravasation. So circulating tumor cells, adhesion to blood vessels, extravasation, and growth to secondary tumors. These are the steps in cancer metastasis. So there are different hallmarks of cancer, and hallmarks are trait of a normal cells which require as slowly transform into precancerous one and ultimately into cancer. They are the biological characteristics acquired by cells, and it is multi-step development of human cancer. It is distinctive and complementary capabilities that enable tumor growth and metastasis. It is an organizing. The hallmarks are organizing principle for rationalizing the complexity of neoplastic cells. They provide a solid foundation for understanding the biology of cancer and strengthen the fight against cancer. So, studying hallmarks of cancer is important in studying cancer biology. They are the basically hallmarks are the characteristics of, I would say, the characteristics of cancer cell, and these are the hallmarks. If you want to understand biology of cancer, you have to study hallmarks of cancer, which is, the hallmarks are evading growth suppression, avoiding immune destruction, enabling replicative immortality, tumor promoting inflammation. Inflammation is a recent hallmark. Activating invasion and metastasis. Angiogenesis. Angiogenesis is formation of new blood vessels. Genome instability and mutations. Resisting cell death. Deregulating cellular energetics. All and sustaining proliferative signaling. These are the hallmarks of cancers. So, to address biology or to address any question in cancer, you have to study etiology. Etiology is what? Is a reason, or etiology is cause or causative factors of cancer. And etiology of cancer is multifactorial, which includes genetic changes, environmental factors, medicinal factors, lifestyle factors, which interact with each other and they result into cancer. Most of the cancer caused by genetic mutation is often by a series of mutations. So, etiology is important, and this is cell cycle regulators and cancer. So, to study etiology of cancer, you should know a risk factor. What is a risk factor? Is anything that increasing a person's chance to get disease, and some risk factor can be changed and other cannot. So there are two types of risk factors in cancer. One are modifiable and others are non-modifiable, and different cancers have different risk factors. For example, lung cancer, the major risk factor is tobacco smoke, asbestos, and air pollution. So most of these risk factors are modifiable. For example, colorectal cancer, you have cancer polyps, genetic alteration, diet, cigarette smoking, ulcerative colitis. So some of the factors which are modifiable, some of the factors which are non-modifiable. Similarly, there are various risk factors for liver, pancreas, kidney, leukemia. Leukemia is a blood cancer. There are factors or risk factors for bladder cancer, uterine cancer in females, melanoma, the skin cancer. So as I said, there are avoidable cancer risk factors, and the major avoidable risk factor is lifestyle changes. So the top 6 causes of all cancer in men and female are tobacco, lack of fruit and vegetables, occupational hazard, consumption of alcohol, obesity, and exposure to sun and sunlight. So this is for American and European countries. This is not for India, because we do not have much melanoma. Many skin cancers are due to sun exposure. So having healthy diet, being physically active, and maintaining healthy weight may help to reduce cancer. Eat well, be active, and maintain healthy weight is key. So physical activity can help to control your weight and reduce body weight. Moderate physical activity for at least 30 minutes on 5 or more days each week is recommended for avoiding cancer risk. So this is about avoidable risk factors. There are several viruses or bacteria which may increase risk of developing cancer. HPV, human papilloma virus in cervical cancer is very well known. Helicobacter pylori for stomach cancer, hepatitis B and C in liver cancer, human T-cell leukemia and lymphoma virus, HTLV for leukemia and lymphoma, immunodeficiency virus for lymphoma and Kaposi sarcoma, EBV, Epstein-Barr virus for lymphoma, and herpes virus 8 for Kaposi sarcoma. So there are several viruses also which are associated with various cancers. So to reduce the rate of cancer, you have to develop a cancer screening framework, and cancer screening is analytic framework for cancer screening is a person at a risk. If you screen, you have to look for adverse effect of screening early, but the screening will be able to detect cancer and at early stage, and you can take intermediate outcome surgery for cure or decreased late stage disease, and you have to take care of adverse effect of the treatment. But cancer mortality and overall mortality and quality of life will be improved if the cancer screening programs are useful. And there are several websites where you can find more details on cancer screening programs. After screening, the important step to control cancer is prevention. Primary prevention, which is avoiding exposure to cancer-causing agents such as tobacco and industrial carcinogen. Early detection of cancer is education to promote early diagnosis and screening, and genetic testing. And there are genetic testing which can check for certain inherited changes that increase the chance of developing. So, natural history of cancer and stages of cancer prevention. So you have a primary prevention where you can study exposure details, and here the A is a point where there is onset of the disease, and there is detection of the disease, and there is a long latent period in case of cancer. Cancer starts very early in your body, and it is detected after multiple mutations. So this is a blind area which should be addressed properly. Once cancer is detected, there will be a secondary stage where there is a symptoms and signs of cancer, and again cancer after cancer is detected with different approaches in form of tertiary prevention. You can cure cancer, or you can prolong the life of cancer patient as a tertiary prevention before and you can prevent that. So this is how you can address cancer prevention. The primary prevention is the prevention of disease by reducing exposure of individual to risk factors or by increasing their resistance to them, and thus avoiding the occurrence of a onset of disease, which is event A. The secondary prevention is again important, and secondary prevention is the early detection of treatment disease. Screening activities are an important component of secondary prevention. Point B here is the point in time at which the disease becomes first detectable by appropriate screening. For example, it might refer to the time at which cancer mass reaches to minimum size that can be seen by X-ray. Thus, the distance from point B to C presents detectable pre-clinical phase. The location of point B varies from one individual to another, and it also depends on screening techniques. which you use. So this is secondary prevention, and tertiary prevention is the use of treatment and rehabilitation programs to improve outcome of illness among affected individuals. So, how cancer is diagnosed? There are various methods for cancer diagnosis, and in cancer, biopsy is one method, and other supportive examinations are complete blood count and direct count for leukemia patients, X-ray, sonography, CT scan, MRI. All these investigations, they also contribute, or they also help in cancer diagnosis. Biopsy is taking tissue from a patient's organ. Endoscopy, that is IVTC, interventional approaches to detect cancer, and fine needle aspiration biopsy are the methods which are used for cancer diagnosis. This is example of diagnosis for breast cancer by genetic level, by bone marrow example, and other approaches for cancer diagnosis. Similarly, for cancer treatment, there are a lot of advances. Complementary therapies, conventional therapies are surgery, chemotherapy, immunotherapy, radiation therapy, and stem cell transplant, and as I said, targeted therapies. Genetic abnormalities are targeted in form of targeted therapies, and as you can see, this is a targeted therapy which will work on these none of these patients. It will work on this patient. This targeted therapy will work on this patient. This targeted therapy will work on 1, 2, 3 patients, and this targeted will work on this patient. So this is a specialized approach or personalized approach by targeted therapies, where you can you have to do molecular profiling of cancer, and you have to identify genetic abnormalities. So the current era is of various targeted therapies, and they are known as NIBs, imatinib, crizotinib, and MEBs, that is panitumumab or cetuximab, etc. So this is there are various targeted therapies which are approved by National Cancer Institute, FDA approved therapies. There are different cancers and different targeted therapies which has improved cancer treatment, and this is as I said, CML, chronic myeloid leukemia, where imatinib is used as a targeted therapy, and it has really worked wonder. And you can see in this picture that in early 70s there was chemotherapy, and then it was complemented with interferon, and then interferon plus stem cell transplant, and then imatinib came into picture. So the recent approach is by imatinib, and if you look to data from 2008 to 2009, the 5-year survival has improved greatly. So here after diagnosis, if you look at 5-year survival, 5-year survival was around 30% in with the help of only chemotherapy, which has now become more than 95%. So this is the wonder played by targeted therapies. This is another example or recent example, and this is South Indian actress Mamta Mohandas, and so she, in 2013 she has cancer relapsed due to therapies have helped, and there is a great need of studying various omics, genomics, transcriptomics, epigenomics, metabolomics, all type of genomics to study molecular signatures of the disease, which will help in diagnosis, prognosis, disease monitoring, and targeted therapy. So we have to study genome, epigenome, transcriptome, proteome, and metabolome to address cancer. There are various omics approaches which are important, and in cancer the latest concept is liquid biopsy, because biopsy is not visible most of sometimes. It is not a practical, and periodic monitoring progression is not possible, whereas biopsy from tissue is limited and greater demand due to molecular profiling, and surgery is costly. So liquid biopsy is addressed as an option. Liquid biopsy is a test done on a sample of blood to look for cancer cells from tumors that are circulating. It is a non-invasive test carried out from blood, saliva, urine, ascites, pleural effusion used as samples. So basically, it is a latest approach, and the prospects and already done the, it is useful as a standard biopsy and imaging techniques offering invaluable diagnostic, prognostic, and predictive information. This is comparison between liquid biopsy and tissue biopsy. It is a concept which is useful in adapting personalized medicine approach and provides an innovative way for patient clinical trials. So current research, cancer research trends include nutraceuticals or natural products as curcumin and various other products. Curcumin, the golden nutraceutical multi-targeting proteomics, exploring diversity of lutein seed storage. So another natural product. This is again nutraceutical and drugs with pleiotropic effects. So there are various dietary advanced glycation and end products. So there are various nutraceuticals or plant-like things in cancer prevention and treatment, which is a recent approach. So today is the cancer biology is an anticipated remedy to strengthen fight against cancer. It is today's investment in basic science which will provide tomorrow's opportunity in clinical cancer research or clinical research. And so studying cancer biology or studying biology for prevention and better treatment of cancer is important. And we will stop here. Thank you very much.